Hey hi everyone, this is Mukesh Utwani from learn-automation.com. So guys, in this video we are going to talk about very interesting topic from Java called super keyword. Now super keyword is widely used in real-time applications, plus you will be getting a lot of questions in interviews as well from the super keyword. Okay, so let's get started with a high-level agenda. So first of all, we'll talk about what exactly is super keyword. Okay, and then we'll talk about the super keyword usage with three different conditions. So how super keyword will behave with variables, with method and constructors. Okay, so let's see one by one. So before we start, what exactly is super keyword? Super keyword is just like one of the reserved keyword in Java. It is also known as reference variable. Okay, so this super keyword we will be using along with variables, method and constructors. So I will show you program for each and every condition and we'll see how it behaves. So the first condition which we have, only a condition which we have is super keyword will work with inheritance. Okay, so when you have parent and child class, then only you can use the super keyword. So let me walk you through the complete scenarios first, and then we'll write program for each conditions and we will see. So let's talk about the first condition with variables. So scenario says if parent class and child class both have the same variable, let's say data, okay, and if you want to access the base class data from the child class, then you can use the super keyword. So in this example, let's say if I have class A and class B, class A have one variable called data, class B also have one variable called data. So if you want to access class A data from class B, then you have to use super keyword. Just keep this point in mind. We will write the program for each scenario, then you will get everything very clear. But for the time being, let's focus on the theory part as of now. Same scenario with method. If parent class and child class both have the same method name, let's say calculator. So from child class, okay, if you want to call the base class methods, then you have to use super keyword again. Okay, same goes with constructor. Now constructor works in a little different manner. So constructor also make some automatic calls with super keyword that I will be showing you. But in simple words, again, whenever we have to make a base class constructor call from a child class, we will use super. So these are few points, but these points just have a one quick glance. We will be using each thing now in program. So first thing, super keyword or the super call should be the first statement in the drive class constructor. Second point, if you do not call the base class constructor, then by default Java internally calls base class constructor, which is default with default argument. Okay, if you want to call parameterized one, then you need to call explicitly. But by default, it makes calls to the zero argument constructor. Third point, if base class does not have any zero argument constructor, then Java throws compile time exception. And the last point, you will see once we start writing program, child class call the base class constructor and base class again calls parent class constructor. So this chaining is known as constructor chaining. Again, in interviews sometimes they will not ask you direct questions. If they ask you what is constructor chaining, then you have to explain the same thing with the help of super keyword. Okay, so I know I have covered so many technical points in the last slide and this slide. Let me write program so that you can relate. So for this, let me go back to Eclipse and let me create a fresh package, and this package I will give super keyword demo. So the first thing, I need two classes, then only I can use this super keyword. So I can make one as base class, or yeah, let's make it base class, and let me make one class as child class, and let's take public static void main in this class. So let's say in base class I have one variable called, let's say, interest rate. Okay, so current interest rate, let's assume it is 8%. Okay, and let me make a method also. So method is, let's say, public void show me interest rate, and in the sysout statement I will say current interest rate from RBI is whatever interest rate we have. Okay, so I will just use this variable called interest rate. Now in the child class, I will be using the same variable. So this time I will say same thing, but this time I will change the value. So let's say this is now 10. So RBI has decided that government interest rate should be 8, but let's say these private banks, they are making it 10, 12, 15. Now if I create another method here, and if you want to give the same method name, it's fine, but I will give some different name in this example. In the next example, we'll take the same name. Show me interest rate from private bank. Interest rate from private bank is, and we will be printing it. Perfect. So let me create object of this class. And guys, small thing, in case if you are not aware of what is inheritance, how to extend a class, how to create child and base class relationship, I have dedicated video on inheritance. Please go watch that video where we discuss about different kind of inheritance in Java and how do we use it, because we have discussed in detail. So I'm just using the same concept in this program. And if you are completely new to Java, like how to create classes, how to create object, for each and everything I have dedicated video. I will give you the link in the description. Please go ahead and watch that playlist. So the step number one, I need to extend the keyword, I need to extend the class, then only I can use it. So I will be extending a base class. Second thing, I need to call this method, and since it is a non-static, I will be creating object of this class, which is child class. So I will make it child class, let's say obj1 equal to new child class. Perfect. Now let me first of all use interest rate. Okay, so guys, this interest rate is coming from, okay, let me run this. First of all, it's coming from the child class, right? Because object 1 is object of the child class. So when I say interest rate, I'm getting 10. Fine. And now let me call this method which we have created. Let's say obj1 dot show me interest rate from private bank. Perfect. Now I have not used super keyword. Now let's use the super keyword. So this time I will say sysout system.out.println, and this time I'll say super dot interest rate. Okay, so it says you cannot use this in a static block. That's fine. So let's use this directly in this method. Since it's a static method, I cannot use the non-static variables. So it is asking us to use non-static variable in non-static method. Okay, so let me run it again once again so that we will be on the same page. Interest rate from private bank. So again, I'm referring to this particular interest rate which is in the local or in the child class. So again, we will be getting the output as 10. But this time if I say super dot interest rate, so I'm just telling go to the base class and fetch the interest rate, which is nothing but 8%. That's very easiest example I can give you. When you give interest rate without any super keyword, it will take the child class, but when you take from the base class, you need to just mention super dot variable name. That is how super works with variables. Second example, if you want to just use the same class, you can use. So let me just make a small change. So in the base class, I have one method called show me interest rate, right? Same method I will create in the child class as well. So let me just change it so that we will have a little different data this time. and here I will say I am in child class, correct? And just to make a small difference, I will just make it I am in the base class. Correct, guys? Now same method is available in base class, child class. You can see this arrow also giving me that we have a same method, so it is showing us a symbol of override. Now I'm calling this method, which is show me interest from private bank. Definitely it will jump here. And now from this method, if I want to call show me interest rate, can you guess which method will get called? Obviously this one, because it is referring to the current class. If it is referring to the child class, always preference will go to the child class, guys. So when I run this code, object 1 is calling this method, which will jump into this, and from this if I call show me interest rate, it will call this method. Now let me run this. Yes, it says I am in the child class, and this is nothing but this is out. Now if I want to make a call to the parent class, I can simply say super dot show me interest rate. The moment it says use super, this method will be this method will get called from base class. So this time you will see we will get this output call I am in base class. So if you just run as the application, you can see it says I am in the base class. So very easy. Same with variable we did. Whenever we have to access the base class variable, we did super dot keyword or the variable. Same thing we did for method as well. Now concept will be little tricky when it comes to constructor, but trust me guys, it's very interesting, and mostly questions will come from constructor with super keyword. Okay, so let's see the third scenario. For the third scenario, guys, let me create a separate classes again. So this time I will say it's a parent class. I can actually make the changes in these classes, but you will get confused when we make multiple changes. So I'm creating a separate class here, which is nothing but a parent class. So the new class which I will create, I will give a subclass. Okay, and subclass I will keep, let's say, public static void main. First of all, public static void main. Now guys, if you are not sure about constructor, what is constructor overloading, why we have to use, again for constructor I have a dedicated video which I will link in the description. Please go ahead and watch that video. So how do we create constructor? First of all, we will be having constructor name same as class name, which is nothing but subclass in this case, and I will just use one small sysout called I am in child class constructor. Same thing I will be doing for parent class. I will say public void, not void because constructor does not have any return type. It has the same name as class name as parent class, and here I will just make a sysout statement called I am in parent class constructor. Clear? Fine. Let's create object of this class, which is subclass obj1 equal to new subclass. Okay, now let's see the magic part. The moment I run this, okay, we need public static void main with string args. You can see run as your application. As of now, it is calling only the child class constructor, and which is expected. The why it is only running child class as of now, because we have not extended. So again, when you work with super, it is mandatory that you need to extend the parent class or the base class. Now the moment you run this, it is automatically calling the parent class constructor. Even though I just mentioned that I want to create constructor of the child class, which is subclass in our case, it actually should call this one, which is I am in child class constructor. But can you see it is automatically calling the parent class constructor first. That is the reason you can see the output is coming I am in the parent class constructor. Second would be I am in the child class constructor. Okay, makes sense and fine. Now let's create one more constructor. This constructor has one argument called string argument. So whatever argument we will get, let's say name, I will be passing here. So while creating object, obviously I need to pass the values here, right? So if I pass value called Mukesh, so automatically this constructor will get called and it will print I am in the child class constructor. Now the question comes, will it call the default constructor? Okay, now here comes the scenarios. So the answer is yes. Whenever you call any create any object, okay, by default parent class constructor will get called. Okay, so first scenario was straightforward, second scenario was very straightforward. Now let's make the changes in the parent class constructor. Public parent class. Now this time we also have one argument. Okay, so this time if I just simply say I'm in parent class constructor, and whatever name we will get, we will simply pass as it is. Now the question comes again, will it make any difference now? Let's run it. No. Even though we have the same constructor, like constructor with one argument, constructor with one argument, will it make any difference? No. By default, it will always call the default constructor, which is no argument constructor. Now here comes the main part of super. Now Java says if you want to make a call to the parameterized constructor of the base class, then you have to use super along with the parameter. Okay, I will repeat again. Java says whenever you have to make call to the parent class parameterized constructor, you need to use super keyword and you need to also pass the parameters. So now in this case, if you see, the moment I create object with parameterized constructor of child class, this will get called, and now I'm calling super with one argument. So control will come to parent class, this constructor will get invoked. And now if you see, now since we have called super with parameterized, super with parameter, it is not calling the default constructor now. I hope you are able to relate what I am trying to explain here. We discussed about the different situation, and each situation is different, guys. Okay, so this is how the super keyword works in case of constructor. So do not get confused. Use with variables, use with method, use with constructor. Okay, so now the final point, guys. So now if you go back to my old like the PPT which I covered, okay, so if you see this part, the third point, if the base class does not have zero argument constructor, then Java will start throwing compile time exception. Okay, so what does it mean? So let's use the same example. Let me just close this. In the parent class, right now I have one default constructor with zero argument, one constructor with one argument. Let me just remove this part from here. As you can see now, it started throwing error. Now, even though we are parsing or we are calling this constructor, right? So let's say if I pass Mukesh here, definitely this will call this constructor, which will be passing names, and this will pass the base class, or it will call the base class constructor. But consider a scenario when you don't pass any constructor. or when you don't pass any value in the constructor, right? In that case, definitely this will call this constructor, and as Java says, it will call the base class constructor. So in case if base class does not have any zero argument constructor, how it will behave? So it will start throwing error at the compile time itself. So the error itself says implicit super constructor parent class is undefined. Must explicitly invoke another constructor. Okay, it means in base class you need to have a zero argument constructor. Okay, so just save this file and you will see there's no error. Okay, so just let me do a small recap so that everything should be clear. When you use a variable, make sure when you have to access base class variable, call super dot variable name. Same thing with method. If both methods are available in base class and child class, if you want to access explicitly base class methods, go with super dot method name. And if um, and in case base class have multiple methods, okay, and same methods are available in the child class, then you can use super dot method with number of arguments. Last one is with constructor. So same will be applicable for constructor. If you want to call base class constructor automatically, okay, with parameterize you have to call super keyword. So if it is not if it is like default constructor, okay, you don't need to make such calls. But if it is parameterized one, you need to make again constructor call with super with proper parameter. And let's say this parent also have one more constructor. Okay, and let me keep this as first name and let me keep this as last name. Okay, so if I will try to print this space and L name. Now the question comes, if I want to call this constructor from the base, so from the child class, I can simply call like this, right? Like this will be passed from here, which is Mukesh will be stored here and it will be passed here. Second argument is Otwani. But now if I try to do this like super name, and if I try to do this, like I want to make this constructor call first, which is with one argument, then I want to make this constructor call. So Java says it's not possible. As per the rules, it should be the first statement in the derived class constructor. It means you cannot make it as a second statement. It has to be the first statement of that particular block. So in case if you want to call another constructor with multiple argument, make sure you call in the different constructor. Okay, I hope it is clear now. So that's what I have for this example. In case if you like this video, share with your friends, subscribe to my channel, and if you have any other query related to Java, Selenium, you can also send me an email to my email, which is mukeshotwani@learn-automation.com. Thank you so much guys, have a nice day, bye bye.